And we are live. Welcome everybody to another one of my deconversion stories. This time I'm featuring a friend of mine from Facebook. I think we've probably known each other for over a year now at least, so a lot of interactions there. And his name is Nick Simmons.
Okay, I'm ready. I'm ready.
Okay, all right. I think we got a bit of delay going on between Nick and I, so it could get kind of weird a bit, but we're going to do our best. He tried on his phone, but unfortunately it wasn't working, so he's got to go with some ancient laptop technology, and we'll see how it works from here on out. So, Nick, can you hear me well now?
Simons.
You can hear me? Okay. Okay, yeah, I see you're quite slow. So that machine of yours is kind of slow. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to let you sort of tell your story from when you first realized that you weren't believing in this nonsense anymore, and how that led you up to where you are now
Yes.
as a science advocate and whatnot. All right, does that sound good to you?
Yes.
All right. So what
Can you
was it?
hear me? Yeah, I can
Yeah,
hear you.
yeah, I can hear you. Are you hearing what I'm saying there? You caught all that?
I told you.
Okay. Yeah, this is going to be interesting. We can't hear you now, so try talking again, Nick.
All right, let yeah, let me know when you can hear me. Just
I can
can
hear
you hear
you.
me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. Well, basically, I was about 20. Yes.
You're cutting in and out,
Yeah.
man.
Yes, I did. Now, basically, I was about 25. All right, you can't hear me
No, you're
at
cutting in and out.
all.
Yeah, you're kind of going all robot voice on us.
I mean, you before we went on, you said you could hear me,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, but it's once in a while it
And now you
fades.
can't hear me.
I can hear you now. Oh wow.
Is that what you're saying? You because you could hear me before, but now you can't hear me.
I can hear you, but you're choppy. You're cutting in and out.
Okay, but when I actually deconverted from Christianity, I was about 25 years old,
Okay.
and it was really just I mean, there's nothing I can do, Neil. I'm sorry, Neil. There's nothing I can do then. For some reason, it's taking me to this when I click on the link on my phone, it doesn't take me.
Oh, we lost him. Oh boy, Nick. Oh, yeah, we lost him. I'm thinking that his technology is not up to speed for this. Oh, Nadine. Yeah. Okay, that's a good idea. Let me just let him know. There, sent him a message, and we'll wait for him to come back. Sorry, guys. It's kind of crappy when something like this happens. Nick's a pretty interesting guy too, so hopefully this will work when we actually. Nadine has mentioned to turn off the video, and the audio should probably work better because his card probably can't handle the two of them at once. So maybe if he comes back in with just the audio and no video, it'll be better. Let's hope so, because I was really kind of looking forward to this. And I've been having far too many people cancel on me in the past little while. But I have rescheduled Thomas Bear, just so you guys know, for I think next week. I'm pretty sure it's next week. I'll just double check. Hey.
Oh, yeah, I'm here. That's my. That's not even me. That's my dad.
That's okay. Hi, Dad.
Well, it's his Google account. I would have had to switch to mine, and there's people. It's like a half hour after I told people that this was supposed to start. So look, that's my dad. Isn't he handsome? That's not me. I'm not 64. So
That's okay. But you know what? This is such an improvement. And I've interviewed people like this before where they weren't on camera, so it's not a big deal.
Yeah, I didn't know. This is like the second time I've done this on Google Hangouts. The first time it went smooth on my phone, except they couldn't hear me talk real good.
Right.
You know, so my apologies. It's
Oh shit, man. This is how we work out the kinks, and we learn for next time. Science, baby. Anyway, yeah, as I was saying, this is Nick, and he's a huge science advocate. I've been following him. We've known each other for probably well over a year now, back and forth on Facebook. Yeah. We're in several groups together, kicking the crap out of creationists and whatnot. And
I love it. That's what I do.
Yeah, exactly. And basically, just as you were going to do until you kept cutting out, just start at the beginning when you first realized that this stuff was nonsense and where it took you to the point you are now. Let's hear the story. And then we can talk about some other sciencey shit too, if you want.
It certainly wasn't just a 1 second revelation. That bullshit. It took a long time. Yeah. A couple months before I actually had to admit that I had doubt first. Right. You know, that's a big deal because in Christianity, you can't admit you have doubt because that's like the deadly sin that never gets forgiven. You know what I mean? If you deny the Holy Spirit. So I finally, thanks to Noah's Ark's ridiculousness, I was able to admit I had doubt. You know, and I tried to find ways. I tried to find ways to rationalize it, but you know, it was just silly. So what it was a moderate suggested that maybe the stories in the Old Testament were only allegories and they were metaphorical. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I was 25 and I was sort of a fundamentalist. I believe the Bible was literally true, You know what I mean? But there was this dinosaur thing. I kind of just had to kind of like, well, okay, dinosaurs existed before Adam and Eve, and the Bible
Yeah,
didn't
just
include them. But
just
oh well, yeah,
hide that in the closet or something. We'll deal with it later.
yeah. I acknowledged them. I didn't go into straight denial like, oh, they must be bones planted by Satan. You know what I mean? I just knew, okay, there's stuff the Bible didn't talk about, basically, is how I looked at it. But then some moderate Christians suggested that maybe Adam and Eve didn't really happen. And I was like, what? What are you talking about? Of course Adam and Eve really happened. Everyone knows that Adam and Eve really happened. We can all trace our heredity back to Adam and Eve. I mean, I
Oh,
swear at 25 years old, that's actually what I thought. You know what I mean? I
yeah.
really I just assumed the deadly assumed that creationists kill us for if a scientist assumes something. So I assumed the Bible was literally true. You know what I mean? And I just hung out and kind of just I tried to live it once in a while, but it was hard, you know. But I believed it though. I believed it, and I believed I was a sinner, and that I fell short of the glory of God and all that. But then
Hmm.
I started reading the actual Bible again. Every time I tried to read the Bible, I was like, "Oh my God, this is some crazy stuff," and I would just skip to the New Testament. You know what I mean? Once you get to like Exodus and they start talking about from God and just crazy stuff like, oh, when you shit, you better cover it up because God hangs out around and He doesn't want to see your weird shit. Just like people with deformities. If you have a large nose, God doesn't accept you. You know,
Yeah.
just weird stuff. I would be like, man, this is just crazy, and I would go to the New Testament. So reading the New Testament, I saw this verse that was like, um, it's works over faith. Faith without works is dead. And I was
Right.
like, wow, that kind of contradicts our philosophy that we all fall short of the glory of God. You know, and
Yeah.
I kind of looked at this like, well, the Bible is sending contradictory messages here.
Well,
You know,
not
it's either
only
we're just yeah.
it was. I think the one you're referring to is the Mark one, correct? And then there's also the other one,
No,
or is it
actually I'm
Luke?
speak no, 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 no. It's not in the Gospels, it's in James. I forget the exact verse. But
Oh,
I mean the name the in James. We all faith without faith without works is dead. So
okay. But
basically
there's
they're
one
saying
that
you have
counters
to
that.
get into heaven.
There's one
Well,
that
of
also
course,
says
we
you
all
can only
shall
get in
fall
through
short of the
faith
glory of
alone.
God. I don't know about that. We all fall short of the glory of God is in Romans. And
Yeah.
that's kind of the one that the Christians hang on to because it just means, okay, we can just hang out and do whatever we want. And as long as we believe in God and Jesus, we're going to go to heaven. So
Mm.
that's what a majority of the Christians that I associated with, that's what they clung to was that verse. This other one that said faith without works is dead. So I
Mhm.
noticed the contradiction, and I mean it just kind of started a. I mean there was some critical thinking going on, but I had to squash it because I wanted to go to heaven. You
Of
know what I
course.
mean? So eh, yeah, I mean I started to go to Bible school or not Bible school, but Bible study. And the teacher, he actually said he was talking about tribulation and rapture, and that he was a and that there was another view that was post trip. The rapture occurs for the believers before tribulation or after tribulation. There's two
Right.
different views because you could interpret the scripture two different ways. So a lot of people wanted to believe in pre-tribulation so they didn't have to suffer, you know. And then so the teacher was a he was a believer in pre-tribulation. So I asked him, I said, well, what's this post-tribulation stuff all about? And he said, well, I don't believe in that, so I don't know anything about it. And I thought that was absolutely ridiculous. And I didn't know anything about critical thinking at the time. Still seemed pretty ridiculous to not know something that you reject.
Hmm. Yeah.
And what
Exactly.
happened? Okay, so I didn't like what I was getting from Bible study. And I was talking about it to people that, I believe in God and Jesus, but this is all getting too strange. There's no evidence for Noah's flood. I just had no idea. I mean, I thought everything was fact as far as Christianity was concerned. I thought Mary was a virgin, that there was doctors that tested it, that it wouldn't be spread around if it was fiction. It had to be real because everyone believed in it. So,
Yeah.
anyways,
Yeah. Yep.
someone suggested that I speak to a gentleman that at the gym that I worked out at, and I unfortunately I don't remember the guy's name because I didn't think about him for about 10 years, but at the time he was a major influence. He was an actual ordained minister that was an atheist. So someone suggested, why don't you go talk to this gentleman and he'll help you out.
Wait, he
And
was
he
an
did help me.
ordained minister that turned atheist?
Yes,
Wow. Okay.
yes. He went through divinity school. He had a PhD or a DH, whatever, the equivalent of a PhD for divinity,
Oh,
whatever that is. So he had
an
more than a
equivalent.
master's. Yeah, he had more than a master's degree in divinity.
I'm
But
sure. I'm sure he did.
along the way, he happened to lose his faith, but he decided because he saw dollar signs, and
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
was all it was all he had going for him. Is how he explained it. Was he
That's
lost
right.
his faith, but he kept.
A lot of those
He,
guys, when that happens to them, they don't have anything to fall back on, so they just continue doing it. And I've spoken to one myself who says he feels like shit when he does it because he knows he doesn't believe this stuff, but he still continues to preach to the people at his church, as
yeah,
if he's a believer, and they still think he is, right? And it's really hard for him. So I'm not supposed to mention his name, but it's okay. But
yeah.
this
Well,
same thing.
this guy said he said it was easy money. He said all you had to do was tell them what they wanted to hear, and you would get paid. He said you sold them nothing and got money.
Yeah,
He said it was brilliant, but he did
yeah.
have a problem with it, like you just said. So
Of
he
course,
all
of
he did,
course.
he said he just saved up a bunch of money and then state is where he
Yeah,
did.
yeah.
But he knew all about the Bible. He knew everything in and out. He knew exactly why it's a bunch of bullshit. And he told me. And what I was really looking for was for someone to justify my faith. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean? For someone to tell me,
Mm-hmm.
oh, you're all good. And that's where I got lucky. Okay, I'm one of the lucky ones. I didn't have a fundamentalist in my ear telling me a bunch of crap I wanted to hear. You know what I mean? The guy that was supposed to do that dropped the ball. Okay, and
Right.
he just said go to Bible study. I went to the minister at the church and I said, look, I'm having doubts, and he said go to this Bible study. So I did, and it was like, well, this isn't helping. It wasn't helping at all. So
It's probably
I just got lucky.
making you stronger in your convictions of doubt.
Sort of, it was. I was just wondering if there's Christians that don't think Adam and Eve really happened, and if there's no evidence for the Noah's Ark flood. It was
Or the
all seeming
Exodus.
like, well, of course, I didn't know that at the time. You know what I mean? I figured that out way later.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was hard because the the guy was telling me stuff I didn't exactly want to hear, but I had to accept that what he was saying. I mean, he had authority. He had
Of
the
course.
the the THD or the doctor in theology. He had it.
Yeah.
He was. I saw it. I saw it with my own eyes. I hung out with the guy for about 3 months. You know, we became friends. I am ashamed I don't remember his name, but that's just I'm not going to make up a name. I'm not going to pretend I remember his name. I didn't think about him for about 10 years, and
It's perfectly
he helped me.
acceptable. They made up names for the Gospels, so it's okay. You got whatever names you want, right?
Right? Yeah, but I mean, he told me, I mean, there's no evidence for Adam and Eve. It's all make believe. It's from other religions. It's from other pagan sources. Just
Yeah.
everything he said was true. I mean, it made too much sense for me to deny, but I still kind of denied it. I
Hmm.
still wanted to believe. The
Of course.
want to believe was strong.
Now, why do you
Yeah, I
think
mean,
that is? Why do you think? Was it
because
fear of hell?
In the end, yeah, but in the beginning, it was just, well, I want to live forever. The universe can't exist
Oh.
without me. You know what I mean?
the the
Why
immortality
was I
bug, right?
why was I born if I was supposed to just die and go away? Obviously, I'm here for a purpose. You know what I mean? So that's what I thought. But then in the end, it was hell that was keeping
Yeah.
me from accepting that Christianity was a bunch of bullshit. It was hell. I was
Yeah.
scared to be wrong. And I didn't know about Pascal's wager. I still attempted to use it.
That's the name. I've been trying to remember that
Yes.
fucking name all day. What's that stupid wager thing? What's his fucking name? I'm standing around at work and
Yeah,
people are looking at
that's
me like, "What's wrong with you, man?" Never
I
mind. Never
attempted
mind.
it. I tried to just make, yeah, myself believe.
Yeah.
But it did. I knew if I basically I was an atheist. I didn't believe in this shit anymore. But I
Right.
was trying to convince myself that I still did. I was trying. Listen. I prayed for faith. I prayed. I said, God, look, I don't really believe in you anymore, but can you please give me? I didn't say it like that, but it was like, look,
I wouldn't open
I
with
need.
that in a prayer.
Yeah, yeah, right. I'm just saying. It was like, God, please help me believe in you. I'm losing faith. I don't want to go to hell. Help me out. You
Yeah.
know, I was serious. I did this every night for weeks. It was weird because during the day I would be like, okay, I'm an atheist. I don't believe the stuff. It's not true. There's no logical reason to believe it. And then at
Yeah.
night I'd be laying there like, you know what? Maybe you need to reconsider that. Just go ahead and believe it in case it's true. And
Yeah.
I really tried that. I really did. And I said, man, if God knows everything, he has to know I'm full of shit. There's no reason. There's no reason to try to fake God out. And it was really out of respect for God because I still wanted to believe in him. I said, okay, God, look, I don't believe, if you're real, show me something, give me some reason to believe, and I will believe in you. I just can't justify belief in you anymore. And it was a
Yeah.
relief. It was a
Yeah.
relief to just be honest.
Yeah.
That's all it was. It's all it took. I just had to be honest with myself and say, you know what? You don't believe in God anymore. Just get over it. You're not going to live forever. The hell
Yeah.
thing, though, yeah, that's how I look at indoctrination. It's like it's evil because you're telling these kids if they don't believe in something, they're going to go to hell.
I know,
It's
right?
evil that to people. It's wrong. It's wrong
Yeah.
in my
It's
opinion. And I'm that was never stressed. That's how I'm saying is I'm a lucky person because my dad did not stress hell. He just said,
right.
look, when I was about 5 years old, he said, look, we're Christians. This is what we believe. Here's a cross. Wear it around your neck. This is what we do. And then before Christmas, he was like, this is why we do this, and I believed it. And I
Hmm.
went to church with him. We went Sundays and Wednesdays until he moved to Florida, and I was in Illinois. And then I found other people, and I went to church with them. And I got baptized at age 13 again because I wanted to show, look, I'm about this, man. I
Hmm.
believe in God and
Hmm.
Jesus. I did this, man. I did it, But then, I mean, of course, there was always like, wow, God, why did you have to make Britney Spears so hot? This was like 20 years ago. I'm like, God, why did you do this, God? I mean, Christina, why are you doing this to me? Sorry, God. You know what I mean? Like to God, like, okay, I'm sorry I lusted after them. God, please forgive me. It's so messed up
they're,
because how are
they're
we
giving me a
supposed to
holy
not
boner.
how are we supposed to not? They make it so that everything you do by nature is a sin.
It's a
So you
test.
have to have them there. It's the oldest racket in town.
Oh
It's
yeah.
brilliantly it's brilliantly executed. You're
Well,
already scared of dying.
was it Mark
So
Twain?
you don't want to go to hell.
Was it Mark Twain that said religion was created when the first con man met the first fool?
Probably that quote he would
Something
make.
like that.
Yes. Yes, it
I love
does.
Twain.
That does. Yeah, I do too. Yeah, he's great. So
Yeah,
I
he's
I'm
got
one
ice.
of the
He's got.
lucky ones. My dad didn't stress fundamentalism. They were around. I don't know. I just kind of did my own thing. I read the picture Bible all the time. I mean, I read that thing. I don't know how many times. I read the picture Bible. It was just that
Wait,
that was
wait.
the
You read the picture Bible? Well, I
well,
guess
yeah,
that's
because
kind of like reading a comic,
there
I
was
guess.
yeah, yes, exactly. Yeah, but it was the actual Bible. It was the actual Bible that was a hard time reading, and that's I remember several times as a kid before I turned 13 or before I was even a teenager. I wanted to be smart, and
Yeah.
I wanted to know about this Bible stuff. So I'd pick up the Bible and I'd read it, and I'd be like, "Oh my insanity! God is mysterious." For sure. Because I wouldn't catch anything good. I'd see him committing atrocities. Because back then I would just open it up and read any page,
Hmm.
you're bound to read something crazy. If you just open up the Bible in the Old Testament, you're bound to see something crazy,
Well, there's
unless you
lots.
focus on that one verse that's good. There's a lot of crazy.
That's the cherry picking.
There's some good, but there's actually more crazy than it's
Oh,
weird, yeah. But when
especially the Old Testament.
what I'm talking about is the Old Testament.
Okay, okay.
That what I mean? Yeah, the New Testament. I could read that. I read the New Testament twice before I became an atheist. I could only read the Old Testament as an atheist because I knew crazy ass shit. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
but trying to read the Old Testament as a believer was very tough because I didn't have a funder making apologies for the crazy stuff.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I was real disenchanted with the Old Testament. So I was like a typical Christian and just ignored the Old Testament. You know,
Right. Yeah.
but I didn't know what was really going on. I really didn't even understand that even if we were completely sinless, we were still born with Adam's sin. I didn't really even grasp that. I just thought, I'm a sinner. I just thought that, because I'm a normal person, I'm a sinner, so I need Jesus so I don't go to hell. I didn't
Yeah.
realize, yeah, that
It's a hell of a setup they put you in, didn't it? You're born with the sin already. Something like seven
yeah,
generations or some shit. It's like, oh,
what,
thanks for giving me a shot. Yeah.
yeah, right. I didn't even really grasp that until after I left the faith.
Right.
So, there it is. I mean, I spark of critical thinking that came out of nowhere, and luckily I was influenced by somebody that told me the truth.
Hmm.
So I got lucky. So I kind of feel sorry for the fundamentalist Christians that grew up fundamentally with parents that pushed it on them. My dad,
Yeah.
yeah, I love my dad. He introduced me stress it. I could have years old and said, "Dad, I don't believe it anymore. I want to search other stuff." And he would have said, "Look, as long as you do something spiritual, he would have been behind me. He would have backed me up. Anything spiritual. It didn't have to be Christianity. You know."
Well,
So I
what was he defining as spiritual? Because everyone has like their own interpretation of what spiritual means.
all right, I'm going to tell you the truth. I don't know if my dad wants people to know that he's an agnostic or he's an atheist or whatever he is, but my dad was under the assumption that any faith brought you to the true God. So he didn't want to believe that Muslims and Hindus were burning in hell. He applied his own secular wisdom
Hmm.
to Christianity when it didn't really belong there. And
Wow.
as when after
Interesting.
as I yes, so I actually pointed that out to him, and I said, "Well, Dad, that's not Christian. The Christian belief is that Jesus is the only way to God.
Hmm.
He's the
That's right.
light. He's the way. Yeah, I mean, no one can reach God through Jesus." And then he basically, I mean, he didn't say it, but his whole demeanor became, "Well, I guess I'm not a Christian." You know what I mean? That's basically he did not go through what I went through.
Right.
Yeah, I
So
think that's funny. Yeah,
he considered himself more agnostic than a
he
full on
thought he was
believer.
a Christian. No, he just thought he was a Christian, but he didn't believe that other religions burned in hell. That's all.
Mm.
He just ignored the real strict stupid stuff in Christianity and just focused on the good stuff. And
Oh,
that stayed with me. After I became an atheist, I sanity was good. That did stay with me until recently. It really did. And I'm kind of ashamed, but it's just how it played out. I just wish that I started doing more sooner. I wish I realized what Christianity really is sooner
well,
and just
yeah.
I yeah.
You know what
Yeah,
they
but
say,
not
right?
that
Hindsight is
yeah,
always
hindsight is
20/20.
2020. Yeah.
Bingo.
Yeah. Yeah, so basically now looking back, I mean, anything that's good about Christianity can be achieved without Christianity.
Yep.
Anything good about Christianity was adopted through secularism.
Well,
Yeah,
yeah,
that's
or
the that's
other pagan shit
yeah.
too. They stole from all kinds of places.
Yeah, but the Christian moderate believers believe it's just a weak, watered down Christianity of the Christianity that they believed in the Dark Ages. That's the
Hmm.
real Christianity is what was being perpetrated in the Dark Ages. The Christianity that moderate believers want to believe in, that's not real Christianity. That's secularized Christianity. Now that we realize you can't just kill people because they don't believe in Yahweh, you know
Yep.
what I mean?
Yep.
Yeah, real Christianity is killing people that don't Jesus.
Right.
Secularized Christianity is whatever that watered down version of Christianity was. It looks like the crazy fundamentalists are coming back.
Well,
Yeah, I
it
mean,
also
judging by what I see on the news, yeah,
it kind of also, that the no true Scotsman fallacy, right? Where a Catholic will say to a pro, he's not a true Christian, or a Christian will say to a Catholic, he's not a true Christian. So it's like none of them really are. If you're going by what you're saying in the Dark Ages, then none of them hold a candle. The Catholics probably come the closest.
they're the originals. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, as far as Christianity is, they started it, they molded it, they created it.
Well, that didn't come
When
till Constantine or something, though.
yeah, but they
Actual
weeded out
Catholicism.
they the non-literal versions of Christianity. The different sects of Christianity that existed at the time. The person Lactantius that was in Constantine's ear was
Hmm.
a fundamentalist believer in the
Yeah.
literal version of Christianity. There was still other sects of Christianity in
Oh,
existence.
sure.
A lot of people don't realize that because they are only fed the Christian version of history. But
Right.
when you get an actual historian's version of history, it's a lot different than the Christian version of history. So,
This,
you know,
this actually, you bring this up, and this leads to me to something else I wanted to talk to you about, other than the deconversion. Is
okay.
you're quite into the mythicism, the Jesus mythicism now, because you have
Well, that's all.
Carrier's app, I think.
Yes, I
What
do. Yes, I do. I
Crestus?
Crestus, get it,
Yeah,
buy it. It's about $8 on
yeah,
Google
yeah,
Play.
yeah,
If you don't want to read 700 pages of on the historicity of Jesus, the Crestus app had a lot of information right there.
yeah.
What it is about. I mean, if you want to talk about Christ mythology,
Well,
I assume Christ didn't. Go ahead.
oh, well, I was going to say we can lead into that, but are you like? I guess we're almost at the point where you are now, anyways, with your deconversion story, because you're now a non-believer, and you've even got your dad thinking about it a little bit, and whatnot. So that leads you up to almost where we are now. And so, when did you actually start becoming uh, an activist? We'll say against it.
Recently, when
Well, yeah,
once once I last year I got injured. I got my shoulder got dislocated 3 times, and
oof,
I had a lot of free time because I was unable to work.
Right.
Started going on Facebook a little bit more. I actually hated Facebook a lot, and
I've
I
had those
only went
days.
on it. I only went on it to let people know I was still alive. Basically, I just didn't like it, and I it's a long story, man. There was reasons why I didn't like Facebook.
Yeah.
Two different girls can be friends on Facebook, yet hate each other and be your ex-girlfriend and be in communication. Okay, so I didn't like that aspect of Facebook where there was this universal communication amongst all my ex-girlfriends. So basically,
You're
I
not supposed to
stayed
have them
away
all
from
there,
not just
buddy.
for
You're only supposed to
I
pick the
just
cool
stayed
ones.
away from Facebook, man. I I just MySpace. I had a friend who got
Oh my
fired from
goodness.
her job. She got fired from her job because she couldn't stay off MySpace at work. And I said, man, that MySpace. I said, wow, you're addicted to MySpace? Because I looked at it like, wow, that's some kind of lame shit there. So I really wasn't into MySpace. I didn't start a MySpace account. And then she was addicted to MySpace. And then everyone got on Facebook. And all my friends were always in front of their computers and they
Yep.
were always on Facebook. And I said, you know what? That looks addicting. I think I'm just going to stay away from that. And then I messed around with one of my ex girlfriends, and then she posted it on Facebook, and my girlfriend seen it, and they were friends. I was like, wait, you friends? You all hate each other. Why are you friends on Facebook?
Now they're
Damn
plotting
Facebook.
against
So
you.
look, so basically, I stayed away from Facebook for at least 3 years just because of that last thing I just told you. I was like, these people are not supposed to be friends. They hate each other's guts. Why are they friends on Facebook? So I said, look, this Facebook, I just didn't like it. I was just like, I didn't even know about it. So I just stayed away from it. I was like, man, damn that shit, man. I got enough problems in my life. I don't need to be addicted to sitting in front of the computer, neglecting my children or whatever. I mean, these people were
Yeah.
so stuck on, they're so stuck on Facebook, they couldn't do anything without it. I was like, damn that shit. But anyways, I got into Facebook last year because I got injured. I started I just I had enough time to think about what was really important to me. And I like atheism, but it's more about critical thinking and intellectual honesty than
Yeah.
atheism for me. Yeah,
Well,
but is
atheism
good
is
at
just a result of that.
yeah, yeah. So I'm not actually an activist for atheism. I'm an activist for critical thinking and intellectual honesty and scientific literacy. I
Yep.
believe scientific literacy is good. It helped me. It's fascinating.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Some of the
So
stuff you post is amazingly cool, man. Really cool.
I'm glad I can bring it to people. You know, I do that so I look at it like I have to read the stuff before I post it to my group.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And I'm absorbing the knowledge. I hope the group likes it,
I read
but
almost everything you posted that is of interest to me. I read it every time.
well,
And
I'm
there's some
glad.
very, very
You know
cool
what I
shit.
mean? Yeah, because it's about spreading scientific literacy, and at the same time, keeping up with all the latest news and science. And it's amazing. We're living in a period of unprecedented discovery. This is
Oh yes.
amazing. I mean, with all the advances that's going on in genetics and
Oh yes.
astrophysics. I mean, because now we've discovered gravity waves. We have all these different ways to probe the universe in our
Yep.
own bodies, our own cells, our DNA, everything. There's been so much there. I witnessed an explosion in scientific news,
Yep.
just in the last year. So I'm hoping that these atheists also appreciate the science that I'm spreading. I certainly
I
appreciate it.
think I
You
think
know,
most of them do. I think most of them do. I find
it's
most of the
kind of
people that
weird.
I've met are kind of like sponges for knowledge, especially if they're fresh out of the faith, right? Then they want to know even more because they've been withheld
I
from it for
guess.
so long. So to me, it's almost
I
like
just
natural curiosity.
That's how it was for me. That's one of the things. Like, I look at Christianity, like what I went through, it was almost a good thing for me to go through because I was able to get out of it. And the critical thinking I needed to use to get out of it led me to science. Once I said, you know what, this Christianity stuff isn't logical. Why should I believe this Jesus stuff did all this stuff if there's no evidence to back it up besides the Bible? You know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I looked into, I said, well, what's with this Big Bang theory? And I looked into it, and it was like, wait a minute, this isn't the Big Bang theory that was Christian pamphlets that I got and the chick tracks
Oh
that
God, chick
actually,
tracks.
yeah,
I
I mean, yeah, I
remember
used to get
those.
those.
Yeah.
Yeah, I used to look at those, and I still look at them as comedy relief, or it's actually kind of scary. But
Well, yeah, I
yeah, so
remember
I looked into
one
the
in
Big Bang.
particular. I remember one in particular chick track that I read that was all about the lining of the planets and how everything was going to turn to shit and volcanoes were going to erupt and earthquakes were going to happen and the Earth was going to tilt on its axis and it's just nuts stuff. And I remember being
Yeah.
scared out of my pants by it, but I was like 10 years old or something. I think. Yeah, that was pretty funny
Hey,
shit.
but that was good stuff for me to actually. Before I started learning about the Big Bang, I accidentally stumbled upon a physics book, a basic high school physics book, and I read it.
Accidentally,
And I
accidentally,
didn't. I
intentionally.
went to the. No, it was seriously. It just stuck
Oh,
out. Like, read this book, physics high school book, and it
okay,
was at the library, and I looked at it, and I just felt impelled to read it. I really didn't even know what physics was. I
right.
knew about science, but I didn't really know what physics was. And that was great, man. That changed my life. If all those times when I was 11 and 12, and when I wanted to be smart, if instead of picking up a Bible, if I picked up a physics textbook, the way it was described for, people that didn't know about physics to be able to understand it. So I
Mm-hmm.
read the whole thing and I did the math, and I did the questions before I checked the answers. And if the answer didn't match, I figured out how to get the right question. Did it just like I was in school, but I wasn't in
Right.
school. I became a dork basically, or a nerd or something. I don't know. I wanted to know why stuff was the way it was, and
Yeah.
not just some explanation that was basically just vague, like, well, God does stuff. I mean, really, anything that happens can be attributed to God. We grow old and die, that's God. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
if if
Sure.
it, if, inte- if intelligent design is true, why don't we just never age after 30, and just stay
Yeah.
in
Wouldn't
that?
that be awesome?
Why don't Yeah, why don't we just ride out at the same physical stamina level that we're at 30, and looks, everything? Why do we have to go to 40, 50, 60, 70, 80? Why do we have to deteriorate? You know what I mean? If intelligent design is true, why do we age to that point where we basically go back to the way we started? I mean, if you live until you're 90 or 100, chances are you go back to being helpless like you were when you were a baby. It just That seems like how nature would run things
Yeah, it's
blindly.
true.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't seem
You go
like.
from diapers and drooling right back into diapers and drooling.
Exactly. So if intelligent design is true, why is all that? Why does everything look so natural?
Well,
You know
how
what
can
I
you
mean?
call it intelligent design when most of our DNA is fucking junk DNA, anyways?
Oh,
Right?
well, if you talk to a creationist, of course, that's not junk DNA. It's just waiting to be discovered DNA. And
No, it's stuff
unfortunately,
that's already been in use way down the chain.
but actually, they are finding uses for junk DNA. The
Well, I'm
the
sure.
problem is the problem is that it's not the original use. Natural selection finds a new way to use that don't really function the way they were intended to use, and that's it's a good creationist argument. I can't deny, that there has been DNA that they thought was junk that ended up serving a purpose, but it wasn't the purpose it was originally intended to serve. So that backs up a creationist argument.
What do you
You
mean it
know what I
wasn't? It
mean?
wasn't. What do they reactivate it? They can't reactivate it, can they?
Well, I know a little bit more about physics than I do about biology,
Okay.
but it has happened where genes that were um, intended, well, genes that served an initial function later became pseudogenes when
Mhm.
they weren't needed anymore, but they still existed. And
Yeah, they
then
just turn
later
off.
on, yeah, but actually performed a function. It's
Yes,
it's true.
until that was no longer
Yeah.
needed, then they just shut down, right?
No,
Our
no,
body.
they performed they perform a different function now.
Oh,
It
okay.
is true. Yeah. Yeah, you got to be careful when you debate creationists because they're slippery and they know
Oh, I
what
know.
backs up their own. Yeah, they know what backs up their own arguments. So I
Oh,
can't
well,
use, I sure there's no, as far as specific pseudogenes like pseudogene fertilizing vitamin C in primates is concerned. Yeah, it's a pseudogene. We don't use it. It doesn't work. It does. We human beings do not process. We don't make our own vitamin C. We have a gene that's supposed to provide that function, but it doesn't work anymore. That's why we have to eat fruit and we have to supplement our diets with vitamin C.
maybe is it
That
because we started agriculture that that gene slowly kind of faded, and now we don't need it because we are able to produce or able to get ourselves vitamin C without
that's
needing the gene?
that, that might be one of the reasons. I honestly don't know. What I know is that the gulo pseudogene is inherited and that
Mhm.
it's a sign of common ancestry. And the fact that primates all have it is evidence that we all are descended from a common ancestor. There's no
Oh,
reason for us to have a gene that doesn't work anymore that's inherited. You know what I mean? If intelligent design is true, you know what I
right.
mean?
That yeah, that's kind of
I
where I
can
was
argue.
going before. It's not so
Yeah,
intelligent.
I can argue about the gulo pseudogene, as far as that being an argument against intelligent design. But as far as junk DNA is concerned, I can't really argue against junk DNA because for tomorrow I'm going to see an article that says, "Hey, 80% of junk DNA functions, so it was junk, but it's not anymore." You know what I mean? So I have to realize that there's the potential for that to happen. So I can't use junk DNA as an argument. Now, there's also the MHY-16 gene that we share with primates
Hmm.
that is functional in chimpanzees, our nearest relative, but it's not functional in us. It's probable that our whatever type of energy is used in creating our functions while we're in the embryo or while we're going through that process, um, human beings didn't need a strong jaw anymore. We have a big brain. It's used to um, promote that or to make that gene functional. The MHY-16 gene that's basically gives primates a strong jaw. It went to our brain. Our brains are the reason why we're the dominant species on Earth. You know
Yep.
what I mean? We still have the MHY-16 gene, but it's a pseudogene in us. It's not a pseudogene in the chimpanzees. Their jaw is significantly stronger. Our
Yes.
brain is significant. Our
They could.
brain is significantly more advanced, or maybe not significantly, but we
Well,
have a more yeah, we have a more advanced brain.
yes,
So
agreed. Obviously,
yeah,
there hasn't been a Caesar yet to start the whole Planet of the Apes thing, so we're safe still.
we are the planet of the apes because
Yeah.
we're apes.
Yes. So my uncle used to talk about all the time. He goes, "What do you mean? We already had Planet of the Apes. We're the apes.
Yeah.
we're just hairless. Well, maybe not all of
That's
us.
true. Yeah. So I've learned a lot from debating creationists in the
Oh, I
last
bet.
year. Yes,
I
I
like
have. And
when you post your discussions with them and you cut them, you screenshot them and then post them in another one. I just laugh sometimes at some of the responses you get, man. It's just I'm surprised you haven't like punched your screen on your phone or anything at some point, because some of these guys are coming up with some of the most ridiculous rebuttals to some of your statements or
it's
points.
sad. It's
Yeah.
sad though. In actuality, it's sad because these are human beings that are exercising extremely fallacious logic, and
Yeah.
it's sad to me.
The
It's
sad part
sad
is
because look, just accept that you're gonna.
they were
Well,
told to do so. They were brainwashed to do so. That's really the sad part.
most of the young Earth creationists, most of them were indoctrinated at a young age.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they don't know what it's like to think outside the young Earth creationist box. And it's sad because you
Uh,
just can't get them to get out of it. Like, I've got to know a couple young Earth creationists, and it's really just it's a sad experience if you, because they always say they'll change their mind when they're presented with evidence. And they always
bullshit.
say they're open mind. It is bullshit. I had
Yeah,
to
they
learn that
say
the hard
that.
way.
I asked
Yeah,
someone,
it is.
I asked a
Yeah,
YECer as well one time myself. I was talking to one, and they had mentioned that earlier in the. They said, "You give me evidence, and I'll believe it, right? If it's strong enough evidence." I'm like, "I've given you so much already. Like, I've given you factual shit. So what is it going to take for you to change your mind about this whole belief system?" They go, "Nothing will change my mind." I'm like, "Okay, now you're just contradicting yourself." That's pretty much when you go, "I'll talk to you later. Have a nice evening."
I had to learn that the hard way.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
wasted
yeah,
a
yeah.
lot of time. I wasted a lot of time debating creationists. What I really did, and I realized, man, my time is more valuable than just
It's a
getting the
learning curve.
last word. Yeah,
It's
well,
a learning
I didn't. I was new to the Facebook way of communicating. I
curve.
really didn't understand that that's how people communicate on Facebook is
Right.
through arguing. You
Yeah, the
know,
internet in general. I think some of the
yeah,
most cancerous things in the world are YouTube comment sections. They're crazy.
it's crazy. I love YouTube, man. It's great, but there's so much. You just never know what you're gonna get when you look on YouTube, man. If it's not vetted by a source that for sure is legit, you never know. That's the problem with what happened with Zeitgeist. I mean, I don't know if you went through what I went through with Zeitgeist. It
I
was like
watched
the
it and I
best
thought
thing
a
to
lot
have.
of it was crap, but yeah, there's some interesting stuff in there.
Well, okay, this is my Zeitgeist story. Then I really put Christianity on the back. You know what I mean? Once I talked to the dude and he told me all the truth about it, and I had to accept it. I put it on the back burner, and I just focused on physics and stuff and just hanging out. And then Zeitgeist came around, and it was like, okay, this is the smoking gun. This is it. Christianity is fake. I know it for sure because this YouTube video has presented it in such a way that I can't deny it. And I
Well,
bought into it. I actually read
which which one are you referring to? Zeke, are you talking about
the
uh,
version.
the which one?
I did. The uh Jesus is Horus.
Oh, that's
Uh,
the
I
Atwell thing, isn't it? Or isn't that fucking?
no, the Atwell is that Jesus is a Roman creation, but
Yeah.
that's bull. Jesus is 100% a Hebrew Jewish mystery religion. Christianity is a Jewish mystery faith.
Oh,
Christianity is a
that's right.
heretical say. Yeah,
That's right. And the whole
but
horse shit was in Zeitgeist, which is also nonsense too. But a lot of stuff
basically
was fake.
said that, well, Zeitgeist, it sparked an interest in Christianity again for me. I bought into whatever Zeitgeist said, thought that if they were putting it out there, it had to be legit. If it was wrong, it would ruin their reputation. So it had to be legit. Otherwise, they wouldn't have put it out there. I was basically kind of logic that I used as a Christian. You know what I mean? I knew it. And I even, like I was about to say, I read a 600-page book by Archaea S.
Mm.
DM Murdoch. That the book or that Zeitgeist was like really based on. And I got all in. I read a bunch of books I read one book by Gerald Massey. Um, Another, I can't exactly remember all the authors' names. I read a couple of mythicist books that were garbage. I didn't know it was garbage at the time, but this is what it was when I gave up Christianity. When I said it was bullshit,
Mm.
Jesus didn't exist. I thought Jesus was a man. There was a real Jesus. I didn't think there was a real man that Jesus is based on. So Jesus confirmed is what it did, and I went along with it, but then because I had been studying science and the big most part, I read a little bit about evolution, but I realized I have to look at the other side. So I read a bunch of Christian fundamentalists like Lee Strobel and McDowell, and I stayed at the conclusion that the story is a bunch of bullshit and Zeitgeist must be true. It took
Well,
Richard Carrier to help me get out of that. Yeah, it took. I had to Carrier,
Carrier, I
and but
like.
what messed that up? Yeah, Bart Ehrman. I read Did
Oh my
Jesus
gosh.
Exist? I
Yeah.
yeah, I read Misquoting Jesus by Bart Ehrman, so I thought he was spot on because he nailed Christianity with misquoting Jesus. So I read Did Jesus Exist? Then he emphatically insisted that Jesus was definitely a man. I mean, he like that was his main thing. Jesus definitely existed. He was a man. So
Yeah,
I
but
gave up.
he viewed him as just some rabbinical dude, or possibly multiple that
Yeah,
were made into one kind of thing.
an apocalyptic prophet.
Yeah, or
So then
something.
I bought into Bart Ehrman's story. And I said, well, Bart Ehrman has to be telling the truth. So I guess Jesus was a real person. And then I stayed away from Richard Carrier. I didn't
Yeah.
want to read his books. I didn't. When I saw YouTube recommend a video by him, I was like, oh, fuck that guy. He's just going to tell me Jesus was a myth, And it was like,
Well,
yeah,
that's where he
I
leans.
honestly, well, he's 2/3 of the way being as respectable as he can towards Christianity. He's 2/3 towards mythicism. I think when he takes everything into account, he said it's like 1,200 to 1 instead of 3 to 1. That Christ was a myth. But for the sake of the Christianity's delicate, for their believers' delicate feelings, he goes with 2 out of 3. But
Right.
anyways, I'm just saying, I guess even as an atheist, I was still succumbing to my confirmation bias. I was still
Of
not thinking
course.
critically. Yeah, so in the last year, I feel like I've really come into my head that maybe I'm still full of shit, but I feel like I'm thinking I feel like I'm thinking a lot more critically now than I did, even as an atheist up until about
Well,
September last year.
anyone could be an atheist, because all atheism is non-belief in deities. That's it, right? And even I
And that's
considered
debatable.
myself kind of an agnostic atheist, because I was into Wicca for a while and shit like that, right? Because it seemed to be
Yeah.
the cool choice. The kids were doing it, so I dressed all in black, and my hair was jet black with purple in it and all kinds of shit. But anyways, that was and then once I got into that for a while, you realize that it's just nonsense, and you're like, all right, I'm done with all that shit. And the critical thinking just got stronger and stronger from there on out. And it sounds like it's something similar with you as well.
It's yeah, man, it's critical thinking. I value it. That's why I feel like stressing critical factual honesty more than atheism itself, because atheism, like you said,
It's
is
just
just
a
going to be the
position.
result.
It's just a position,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, but it's the result of critical thinking and
Yes.
intellectual honesty.
Well, it's the
Christianity
result
is
of critical
is
thinking upon gods and religion. It's a result of that.
well, yeah, but if you're intellectually honest about everything, then you're gonna end up. I I don't see how anyone can be intellectually honest and think that the Bible really happened. Basically, the way that it's played out from Genesis to Revelation, I've looked into it now. I've read the book, so now my opinion is justified. There's no archaeology that really backs up the Bible.
No.
There hasn't been anything that backed up a supernatural claim, but they
Nope.
still thought they had archaeological evidence that backed up like the Kingdom of David and
Oh,
the
sure, but it
walls
all
of
proved to be hoax,
Jericho.
right? And all that shit was just a
Yes,
hoax,
about
or
50
someone was
years.
claiming it. Yeah, yeah.
Well,
So
it's called what it was the archaeologists were discovering stuff, and they were like, "Well, this looks like something that was mentioned in the Bible. This is something that was mentioned in the Bible."
yeah, they just take
Proclaiming
that
it,
step, right?
yeah, that leap. Because as biblical archaeologists, of course, that's what they're going to do. But
Mhm.
then Israeli archaeologists came in, not supporting the Bible and just objectively researching and doing archaeological digs. And they came up with a lot of stuff. And starting in the 70s, basically everything that they thought was true about the Bible has been reduced to maybe it happened, but it didn't happen like it was in the Bible. And then
Right.
some
Yeah.
stuff that did definitely, yeah, then there's stuff that definitely didn't happen in the Bible. All window in the Bible where it might have happened, like between Joshua and Ezra or something. Where there might be stuff that really happened, but it's just as a whole, there's no reason to believe that there's supernatural aspects of the Bible that have manifested themselves in reality. It's just not there.
True
Um,
enough. I agree.
and I feel like
There are some
I
historical events mixed in, especially in the Old Testament, right? I mean, the whole Masada thing with the Romans chasing them up
well,
the.
the Masada is real. Yeah,
Yeah,
there was a fort.
dude, I've been on
Yeah,
it. I've stood on Masada.
yeah, yeah. That's real. Yeah, but that doesn't mean that the Bible, that supernatural,
No, no. That's not what I mean.
supernatural
They
events
were
were
smart.
happening.
They
Yeah,
were smart. They would take some historical factuality and mix it in with the bullshit, right? So,
exactly. That's listen. One of the most common misconceptions of atheists is that the Bible was written by goat herders. It might have been written for goat herders,
oh, I'm
but the
sure some of the
people,
sections of it may have been.
the people that were writing the Bible
Oh,
were most
rabbis and
likely
scholars.
they were very educated because they used advanced literary techniques. That's the telltale sign that these texts were not written by ignorant go herders. These people had to have been schooled, and I guess at the time, advanced literary techniques was where it's at. That's programming for now because that's
Well,
all
I
they
got
had was parchments and
Shane here is just answering a question that I had asked earlier. What people were thinking of the whole Zeitgeist or whatever you fucking call it. And he
okay.
says Zeitgeist was correct in their overall analysis of Christianity. Nevertheless, Zeitgeist was incorrect on many of the details and misrepresented DM Murdoch's position. So there you have it. There.
What I learned what I learned about Zeitgeist after studying was that there wasn't scholarship involved as far as the similarities between Horus and Jesus and Krishna and Jesus.
Oh, there's a few.
We
Few.
yeah, well, Zeitgeist presents it as though there's a lot of similarities when there's only very few.
Yeah.
When I did
Yeah.
when I did independent research on Krishna, in relation to Jesus, all
Yeah.
I could find that Krishna had a slaughter of the innocents story, like how in Matthew, I think, has a slaughter of the innocents where Herod kills all. It's basically a copy of the Exodus, killing the firstborn son type of story. They, you know what I mean? Krishna has that. As far as anything else, okay, Jesus was an avatar of God. Krishna was an avatar of Brahma. Other than
Mhm.
those two similarities, I don't find any more similarities. Um,
What
if
about
you
the
if you look
virgin
at,
birth? I can't remember if
no,
he
no,
wasn't a virgin birth,
absolutely,
right?
absolutely not.
Okay,
Krishna was not born of a virgin.
that's right.
Krishna had like, yeah, Krishna had like 7 or 9 older brothers and sisters when Krishna was born. According to the oldest according to the oldest Hindu text, you have to take into account Hinduism actually plagiarized newer religions, stole from them, and tried to claim them as being predicted by Hinduism. Hinduism uh, copied the Buddhist story and said that Buddha was a incarnation of Vishnu, and
Oh
they
yeah, that
did,
sounds right too.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, uh, whoever it was that was writing Hindu text also did the same thing with the Jesus story, and they did the same thing with the Adam and Eve story. Hindu texts are not reliable sources of information. They copied
I
off
don't
of newer
consider any
religions.
religious text
Yeah,
reliable.
yeah, but scholars know what's more reliable than less reliable.
Of
And the
course.
only reliable text from Hinduism is what I said, that there was a slaughter of the innocents story with Krishna. And so Jesus, the authors of the Gospels might have riffed off of Krishna for that story. As far as Horus goes, I didn't see a lot of similarities when I studied Horus independently. Um, there is similarities with Osiris. Basically, Gerald Massey, I think he made up a lot of stuff. He had because he was involved in museums. Gerald Massey was a scholar
Oh,
that in the 1800s that D.M. Murdoch, aka Archias, based her scholarship on. And so she based her on someone else's bad scholarship, and Zeitgeist used scholarship to promote an ideology that would appeal to atheist confirmation bias.
mm.
That's how I look at Zeitgeist. The
What are
only
you
thing good that
asking,
no,
Shane? What are
listen,
you
hold on.
asking?
The
I
only
just
thing
want.
good that came out of Zeitgeist was I actually started studying Christianity again. That was the only thing good that came out of Zeitgeist was I finally figured out once I moved past Zeitgeist and learned about what's really going on, I actually was able to figure out some of the deeper mysteries that had been plaguing me since I was a youth. Do that. Zeitgeist didn't help me figure out what was really going on in the Bible.
Well, Shane is wondering. I wanted to know, Shane, what are you asking for a citation for?
Of Richard Carrier.
No, no, no. One of the guys in the chat is asking for a citation for something, and I wanted to know what it was.
Tell them
He was
tell them to
asking.
buy Richard Tell them to buy Richard Carrier's On the Historicity of Jesus.
I have it here, actually.
Okay, tell them that's my source. Richard Carrier helped me figure out. I look, Bart Ehrman got me off Zeitgeist, okay? Bart Ehrman cleared up Zeitgeist. But Bart Ehrman poisoned the well against Richard Carrier. Richard Carrier had to fight through that. He had to fight through the fake Zeitgeist BS, and he had to fight through Bart Ehrman's poisoning the well with his rancid um, outlook on mythicism. I don't believe Bart Ehrman read on the historicity of Jesus. I'm calling out Bart Ehrman as a right now because I read Bart Ehrman's whole damn book about the historicity of Jesus, and I'm reading Richard Carrier's book, and 8% of the way through Richard Carrier's book, he defeated the best argument Bart Ehrman had for historicity.
Yeah, I
8%
remember
of the
something like
book.
that. And Shane has mentioned that he's read
Okay,
everything
so
that Carrier has written and everything that Ehrman has written as well. So
okay, well,
I
there's
just I don't know what you
similarities.
were asking for a
Yeah, but you have
citation for. That's all. That was directed at you, Shane. I just want to know
asking if
what
he are.
citation.
Yeah, I don't know why he's asking me for a citation either. If he's read the, already know that there's a lot more behind Christ mythicism than what's presented in Zeitgeist. I believe, if anything, the attributes that Jesus is given that match up with other savior gods was happened that came after Jesus established. I believe that Jesus originated as a mystery religion in the mind of Paul. That I don't believe that the Romans created Christian and based it on of all these other gods. I believe it originated mystery religion as what was happening during that period of time in that particular region of the world. It makes perfect sense. Absolute
Right.
perfect sense. Yeah, it does. It just does. I'm sorry, it does. You
Okay.
know,
Well, I mean,
I
it might
don't.
make sense to you. It might not make sense to someone else, right? So I think maybe
I
we um,
There's
why don't
Jewish
we?
aspects to it, though. You have to understand that there's a lot of
Yes,
Jewish.
I'm an
Yeah,
ex-Jew.
yeah. But as far as Jesus being the replacement for the and the Yom Kippur sacrifice of the scapegoat, it
Yep.
all makes so much perfect sense. That makes way much more sense that Jesus was intended to replace the temple cult than it does that Jesus just incorporated all these different attributes from other gods. I believe they might have added those attributes later on after the original Jewish mystery cult was established rather than it originated the way that Zeitgeist says it did. That's
Okay.
it. Okay, that's what it
Well,
is my opinion.
should we I don't normally like to do this. I'd rather stop this broadcast and reboot a new one and have an after party with a couple other voices. Would you be into that?
Yeah, of course I would.
Okay. Well, then why don't we call this one a wrap, and we'll continue on about the
Okay,
mythicism. And I know
okay.
that my friend Russ would probably love to jump in here. Um,
I'm down with it. Now look, I've
okay.
only read 28% of Richard Carrier's book.
Okay.
Not 100%. Yeah, I mean, but he, like I said, he defeated Bart Ehrman's best argument 8% of the way in the book.
Yeah.
So
Well, I know what you're referring to.
I'm
So
not, yeah, but I'm willing to have a discussion.
okay. Well, then I'm going to wrap this one up, and I'll send you another link in a couple of minutes, Nick, and then you can jump into that one, and I'll get my friend Russ in here, and anyone else who wants to join in. I'll send some links through Twitter, and anyone who wants to join in can join us for a little bit more conversation. We'll have a little bit of an after party. So, anyways, Nick, thank you so much for doing this. It's been a pleasure talking with you, and we'll
Hey, thank
continue on in the after party. All right. So hang
you,
tight, and I'll
man.
send you another link.
Hey, I'm gonna switch Google accounts so it's my picture, not my dad's.
Okay, no
All
problem. All
right,
right, we'll talk to you in a
all
couple of
right,
minutes. And thanks everyone
all
for
right, man.
watching, and we'll see you on the next deconversion discussions. All right, and remember, it's called faith because it's not knowledge.